So, today we're going to be doing the rise and fall of AARON Hernandez. So, it may be a long video, so I don't want to take too much time on the intro. So, let's just go ahead and get into it. So, AARON Joseph Hernandez was born on November 6, 1989 in Bristol, Connecticut. Hernandez's childhood was tough, though AARON would recall his mother throwing his father out of the house multiple times, but always eventually letting him back in. His parents, who originally got married in 1986, would get a divorce in 1991, and they would file for bankruptcy that year before remarrying in 1996. AARON Hernandez was only 3 years old in 1991, meaning that his parents filed for bankruptcy and got a divorce when AARON was 3. AARON would also recall there was constant fighting in the house, and both of his parents would be involved in crime during their lives. Their father would push him and his older brother DJ to excel in sports, but despite that, was very abusive towards the brothers and their mother for no reason. They were believed to be alcohol related, though. The brothers were scared of their father and would even one day go to school with the black eye. But in January of 2006, Dennis, the father who had beat everyone severely, would die due to complications from a hernia surgery. AARON was heavily saddened by his father's death. His mother said AARON would express his grief by rebelling against the law. Those who knew AARON said he never got over his father's death. After that, AARON's relationship with his mother started getting worse and worse, and later in life would accuse her of doing stuff like not getting him medication for his ADHD. Hernandez was on the Bristol Rams football team, but also excelled in basketball and track. He started at wide receiver before making the switch to tight end, which, as most know, would stick as his main position. As a senior, he would be the Gatorade Football Player of the Year and U.S. Army All-American after making 67 receptions for 1,807 receiving yards and 24 touchdowns on the offensive side. And on defense, managed 72 tackles, 12 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 4 block kicks at defensive end on the defensive side of the ball. The touchdowns, which was 24, receiving yards, which was 1,807, were both state records, and his career, 31 touchdowns, tied the state record. And to add into that, his 376 receiving yards in a single game, you guessed it, it's Connecticut state record and 7th best all time in high school football. And finally, his 180.7 average yards per game is a national high school record, which would be why it's no surprise he was the top-rated tight end in the 2007 recruiting class by Scout.com. In nearly 6'2", but while he was decorated on the field, off the field included smoking and doing drugs. When it came to committing, he first committed to the University of Connecticut to play with his brother DJ, but after a bit of convincing from Coach Urban Meyer, would switch his commitment to the University of Florida. Meyer even flew to Connecticut to convince Hernandez's principal to let AARON graduate early so he could learn the playbook, and at this point, Hernandez is barely 17. As mentioned, Hernandez had ADHD that medication, according to him, was failed to get, which led him to not really be ready academically for college. So he had to take remedial classes at Santa Fe Community College. Hernandez was practicing heavily during his freshman year at Florida, practicing a whopping 40 to 60 hours of football, and was a week and would start in 3 games and finish the season with 9 receptions for 151 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, which was very good, but would be benched in the season opener of his sophomore season due to a failed drug test. Following that, he would start 11 out of 13 games with 34 receptions for 384 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in place of fellow tight end Cornelius Ingram, who was injured. In his junior year, he got more snaps and he showed up. He led the team in receptions with 68 receptions for 850 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. He would win the John Mackey Award for the best tight end that year. He would also be named First Team All-SEC and won First Team All-American. But even with all of those accolades, Hernandez was still taking heavy amounts of marijuana, and head coach Urban Meyer, the one who wanted him there in the first place, wanted to kick him off the team after it got bad. But star quarterback Tim Tebow would change Meyer's mind. After his junior year, AARON Hernandez would declare for the 2010 NFL Draft. And while he would attend the NFL Combine, was unable to compete in any drills due to a torn muscle. Although he would participate in Florida's Pro Day, his 40-yard dash would have ranked 4th among all tight ends at the Combine. He also recorded a very solid 30 reps on the bench press, which would have put him number 1, passing Dennis Pitta's 27 reps. Despite that and 111 career receptions for 1,382 yards receiving and 12 touchdowns, he would fall to the 4th round, would eventually be picked by the New England Patriots, number 113th overall. He most likely fell because of off-the-field concerns. While he was a great college player, he would have to compete for tight end because he wasn't the only tight end the Patriots would draft in 2010. Future Hall of Famer Rob Gronkowski would be drafted 42nd overall in the 2nd round. Even though Hernandez had a history with marijuana, he would agree to be drug tested every other week, and eventually Patriots owner Robert Kraft would say Hernandez earned the Patriots' trust. Hernandez would sign his first contract on June 8, 2010, which would be over 4 years, $2.37 million, and $200,000 guaranteed. They would decline the expected $500,000 signing bonus due to concerns about character. During training camp, he would compete well against all the other tight ends, and him and Gronk had great preseasons. During his debut against the Cincinnati Bengals, in the season opener, he would record 1 reception for 45 yards and 0 touchdowns. And then in week 2, would record 6 receptions for 101 receiving yards and 0 touchdowns in a loss against the New York Jets. And in week 3, had another 6 receptions for 65 yards and 0 touchdowns in a win against the Buffalo Bills. He would finish the season with 45 receptions for 563 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns in 14 games played, and he started in 7 of those games. The Patriots finished with a 14-2 record, which would earn a first-round bye, and Hernandez caught 1 pass for 4 yards in the loss to the New York Jets in the divisional round. Before the 2011 training camp, it was rumored that Hernandez had surgery on his hip. Also, Hernandez would change his number back to 81, which was what he wore in college, to give the number 85 to newly acquired Chad Johnson, or Chad Ochocinco. It was said by the two that it was a thing that Hernandez did for a new teammate, but also rumored that Ochocinco paid $50,000 for the number, which that $50,000 was rumored to be used to buy Hernandez marijuana. But it was not proven. So Hernandez was named the starting tight end ahead of the season by head coach Bill Belichick. In the season opener, Hernandez again started with a bang, as he would finish with already 1/5 of his receiving yards the previous season, as he recorded 103 yards and 1 touchdown in the season opener victory against the Dolphins. He was named to the 2012 Pro Bowl and finished the season with 79 receptions for 910 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns in 14 games and 12 starts. And the Patriots went 13-3, again winning them a first-round bye. And in the divisional round of the playoffs, Hernandez caught 4 passes and 1 touchdown. He would also have a 42-yard run in the win against the Broncos. The Patriots would make it all the way to the Super Bowl, where they would fall to the New York Giants. But Hernandez caught 8 passes for 67 yards and 1 touchdown. On August 27, 2012, the Patriots would sign Hernandez to a 5-year, $39.58 million contract, with nearly $16 million guaranteed and a $12.5 million signing bonus. That season, he missed several games with a high ankle sprain and would eventually play his final game in the AFC Championship, where he would catch 9 passes for 83 yards and a single touchdown in a loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Hernandez would have a lot of run-ins with the law throughout his life, but it turned out Hernandez was a murderer. On July 16, 2012, near Cure Lounge in Boston, 2 immigrants, both in their 20s, were shot and killed. Witnesses said that they saw the NFL star tight end, Aaron Hernandez's silver SUV, pull up next to the 2 men's cars and yelled some racial slurs before eventually shooting. But the police thought it was a coincidence that Hernandez was there. They did not believe that he would have shot. On May 15, 2014, he would be found guilty of double homicide, but that wasn't the only murder charge he would have, or at least attempt. As in 2013, in Miami, the supposed accomplice of Hernandez, Alexander Bradley, would be found laying in a parking lot in Miami with a bullet hole in his right eye. And while he would survive, he would lose his right eye and say he fell asleep in the car, and when he woke up, he found Hernandez pointing a gun at his face. And finally, the murder of Odin Lloyd. On June 18, 2013, the police searched Aaron Hernandez's house for any connections to the murder of Odin Lloyd, whose body was found about a mile from Hernandez's house, with multiple gunshot wounds in the back and chest. And while Hernandez pleaded not guilty, he would eventually be found guilty of the murder and sentenced to life in prison. And the Patriots literally pretty much burned $250,000 worth of Aaron Hernandez memorabilia. Florida removed him from everything they had honored him for, and so did Bristol High School. And on April 19th, 2017, Aaron Hernandez would hang himself with prison bed sheets, ending his life right then and there. And it was found after his death that Aaron Hernandez had suffered from CTE. This was a really sad story, but I hope you guys liked it. If you want to see the full script, me and my brother actually just made a website called Get to Know It, and you can search it up, and pretty much the full script will be on there. And so go check it out. I'll see you guys next time.